Terms like satire get thrown around a lot. Let's see if we can't get a firm handle on what it actually is and how it relates to stuff like parody and irony. I want to get into it because it's a term that I see often misapplied, usually by people trying to explain away a comedian dipping into racist themes or anti-trans garbage or other cruelty profiteering. Saying something is satire is sometimes a slightly elevated version of "it's just a joke, bro," but no less ass-brained. I'm sure it's obvious to most of us, but I'll say it anyway. We don't get to label something a joke or satire after the fact, and if we do, regardless of when, that doesn't excuse us for what we say. It's not satire, irony, or parody to say that I appreciate the patrons who support this channel. Now, someday I might get to the point where corporations want to give me money, and because of my morals, I want you all to know that I will happily become their shill. But even then, I'll still be thanking these brave people for going where no corporation dared to tread. Thank you guys. Satire is a form of art very dear to whatever remains of the withered tree stump that is my spirit. It's a very loose term, but basically the defining feature of satire is that it has a point. It's often used in tandem with parody, but as far as I'm concerned, they're not quite the same. Already we get into a bit of hot water because the language I'm speaking right now, English, is not controlled by any entity at all. It's all fine and well to complain about grammar or definition, and trust me, I often have those complaints myself. Font? It's typeface, you devil! But the fact is that there are no rules in this language. Whether you were born an English speaker or just started speaking English today, you could do whatever you want. This is annoying to fussy, privileged pricks like myself because it would feel good to me to be able to lord my privilege over people by correcting them when they run afoul of grammar or vocabulary as I understand it. But an honest look at English reveals that there is no arbiter. So for me, or anyone, to implement grammar or definition without a scope agreed to by all parties would be rude, and worse, absurd. Imagine walking down the street on a warm fall day, enjoying yourself, feeling good, and then someone comes up and says that their mother never let them wear shorts after Labor Day, and you should A, feel bad, and B, go home and change. That's what correcting English is. Pretending the rules that you grew up with matter to anyone but you. Unless you're out here using thee and thou, you agree that English is always changing. Now, if I'm editing your work, then sure, I get to tell you what I think because you've asked me to. But if you're just using English somewhere with no agreed relationship like that, you get to do whatever you want. No cap, Riz, skibbity Fortnite, go nuts. A minute ago, I used ass-brained as an adjective. That's not a word, but you didn't turn this video off at that point, so it worked. That's English. I say all this to point out that defining terms like satire or parody is largely a matter of taste. So while I'm going to tell you what I think the differences are, I'm not speaking with any other authority than that of a middle-aged writer with a YouTube channel. So all that table setting aside, here's the meal. Parody is when you copy something or act like someone. Satire is when you do that in order to make a point. Irony is when something happens that undercuts its stated purpose. Parody does not have to be funny, it's just copying something. You could be doing it because you like that thing. You could be doing it because you see that it works, but you don't fully understand it. That's what people mean when they say that something has become a parody of itself. They're saying that thing has forgotten, or never knew, why it's doing what it's doing, but it keeps doing it anyway. It's copying itself. It's a parody. If someone forgets why they're doing what they're doing, but keeps doing it anyway, and somehow ends up going against whatever their purpose nominally is, that's irony. A post from the site like The Onion can be parody and satire, like this running post series, which we often see make the rounds after yet another of the United States' frequent mass shootings. It's parody because it's copying the way that the American media covers these stories with what almost seems like glee. And it's parodying politicians who are always wringing their claws about not being able to stem these atrocities despite never even trying. And it's satire because the point is that every other nation seems to have fixed this. On the other side, satire is not just misinformation. So if someone posts a news article that isn't true, that's not satire, it's just not true. Making a fake tweet or an AI fake of someone saying something they didn't say isn't satire, it's just misinformation. The difference is that an informed viewer should be able to tell by looking at the material that it's not real. An impersonator doing a spot-on impression of a politician saying something absurd would probably be satire because we, the audience, can see it's not actually that person. But an AI fake of the same thing would be misinformation because it's not easy to tell that it's not real. A lot of the time you just have to use your judgment, case by case, to decide what is satire, parody, or misinformation. And it's tough because we often don't have enough information about the source or the event to know what's what. But there is one very easy way to be on the right side of it every time. And that's to let me tell you what's...
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe, and maybe jump on the Patreon if you want to help me make more. And if you want to talk about comedy writing with people who are trying to do it in a constructive way, we also have a Discord channel.